Hello, and thanks for stopping by. Today we'll be discussing the question, do window managers and desktop environments matter? Now in the past I did a video talking about the question, do distros matter? And while I said yes, distros do matter, I personally don't think that they matter as much as your window manager or your desktop environment. Because as I said in the video, it's all about that workflow. And with distros, the kinds of things you think about when it comes to workflow are your package managers and the neat little bells and whistles that they add to their distros. Like Pop! OS, for example, when they added tiling to GNOME, or Ubuntu when they added accent colors. But essentially the argument comes down to, do you use a desktop environment or do you use window managers? With desktop environments, they come with their own bar, some of them come with their own dock, they have their own set of apps, and they have their own look and feel, which is perfect for beginners because they essentially don't have to install anything out of the box. They can just point and click and go to wherever they need to. But desktop environments aren't just for beginners, because I've seen people run Arch with GNOME. So what types of desktop environments do we have? Well, we've got GNOME, we've got KDE, we've got Cinnamon. I can't think of any other ones. But when it comes to desktop environments, people usually compare GNOME to KDE. In other words, which one would I much rather use? And in my opinion, of course, KDE is more of a Windows feel, to whereas GNOME is more of a Mac feel. Not to say that GNOME looks like Fisher-Price, but they kind of have those feels. But here's the thing, I prefer GNOME over KDE. I find myself using a lot of GNOME apps. And the only thing that I can think of that is KDE is Kdenlive, which is a really great video editing program. But I think that GNOME and KDE are solid choices when it comes to desktop environments. I just prefer GNOME over KDE. But some of you may like KDE because of its Windows feel. Window managers, on the other hand, they are about as minimal as you can possibly get. You don't get any apps, you don't get a dock, and some things aren't really point and click unless you make them. In other words, you have to know some coding, or know how to work your way around it. And the reason I say that about pointing and clicking is because there's no way for you to just click on an application. Instead, you use your keyboard, because window managers are keyboard driven. Although there are some things you can program to make them point and click. Now, I'm not saying that this is point and click, but as far as applications getting to them, I'd recommend Rofi. And while there's many different types of window managers, the three that I know off the top of my head are Qtile, Xmonad, and AwesomeWM. AwesomeWM is the window manager that I'm currently using. Qtile is written in Python, which is one of the reasons I loved Qtile. But Qtile does not install very well on Debian. Xmonad is something that I really don't want to get into because of it being in Haskell. But I know a lot of people use Xmonad and they enjoy it. But AwesomeWM, it's my jam right now. And I say right now because it could change over time. But the only thing I would do is go back to Qtile if I went to something. And what's great about Qtile is that it is now X11 and Wayland. AwesomeWM, on the other hand, is only X11. But I'm not quite ready to go to Wayland yet. I tried Wayland and I loved it, but there's some things that are just missing. AwesomeWM is written in Lua. And when I say written, as far as all of these window managers go, I mean their configuration files are written in these languages. I'm not saying that the programs are actually written in those languages, because they could be in different languages. But really, window managers work all the same, more or less. It just depends on how much you can customize it, and how far you're willing to go. As you can see with my window manager, I went all out. I can play Pac-Man in my tag list. Which, for those who don't know, tag lists are the same thing as workspaces. It's just titled differently. And so which one would I choose? Would I go with a desktop environment or would I go with a window manager? And the answer to that is, well, it depends. If you are a beginner or someone who doesn't want to do a lot of configuring, desktop environments are the way to go. But if you're advanced and you like tinkering with the configuration files, you're keyboard driven, actually, to put a comment in there, you can be keyboard centric with a desktop environment. You just have to manually map everything. And if you just don't want to conform to not being able to customize anything, then I would go with a window manager. Now, that last point that I just made, I'm not saying you can't do everything you want to with a desktop environment. I'm saying that you're going to be more limited in what you can do. For example, with GNOME, you have to use something like an extension manager and download extensions to suit your needs. But I'm telling you guys, GNOME has a really good color picker as an extension. I used to love it when I was on GNOME, but I'm past the days of desktop environments. I personally run a window manager. And why do I run a window manager? Because it allows me more customization. I love tinkering with technology, and it just has an overall better workflow for me. And another thing that I should add about window managers versus desktop environments is floating mode. While there is a floating mode in window managers, desktop environments are more focused on floating windows to whereas window managers are focused on tiling. I personally prefer the tiling because I don't have to resize and I don't have to figure out where I want things to go. It just does it for me. And now we've come full circle. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next video.